Chapter 1. The Space Between Thoughts. Close your eyes, not tightly, gently, like drawing a curtain across a window to soften the light. Feel the hush settling around you, the kind of silence that is not empty but full of waiting, of stillness, of something ancient watching without eyes. You are not alone in this moment. Somewhere in the quiet, stars are listening. They have always been. Now, breathe. Let the rhythm slow. There is a space just before sleep, delicate, weightless, where your thoughts no longer chase each other, where time drips instead of runs. In this space the world uncoils. Your name grows soft, your worries fall silent, and you begin to float, not upward or outward, but inward, into the folds of something older than thought. Here, in this eternal pause between wakefulness and dreaming, wonder stirs. Not the kind you need to understand, and just the kind you need to feel. Imagine the atoms in your body, each one once forged in the furnace of a dying star. That means your breath was born from light, and your silence is not empty, but made of stardust. The stars above you are not separate. They live within you. Their light, some of it still travelling from places so distant they no longer exist, brushes your skin each night without asking for attention. You are part of this celestial hush. You are starlight remembering how to be soft. There is no need to speak here. The universe has no tongue, but it hums, and tonight it hums for you. A universe without edges. Look up even if your eyes are closed. Feel the upwardness, the quiet stretch of sky beyond your ceiling, your rooftop, your town, your world. Out there is no edge, no wall, no place where the stars run out. The universe doesn't stop, it just continues, like a breath that never ends. It is easy sometimes to feel small beneath all that dark. But what if you aren't beneath it at all? What if you're inside it? Not an outsider looking up, but a note in the song the stars are singing. The universe is not a thing we visit, it's a thing we are. They say it's expanding, not like blowing up a balloon, that's too tight, too round, too final. No, it expands more like fog rolling out across a field, or ink drifting in still water. Every galaxy, every star, every atom carried gently outward in a motion so vast and slow that it feels more like breathing than movement. And you're part of that breath. When you inhale, you take in the air that has touched the oceans and tree warrens and the warm backs of wolves under full moons. When you exhale, you join the rhythm of the cosmos. The stars are not just out there, they're folded into your lungs, your blood, your dreams. There is no centre, no edge, no direction that leads to the end. There is only forward, and even that doesn't mean what it used to. Forward could be inward, could be deeper, could be silence. In this boundless place, there is no such thing as too small. Even the quiet in your chest, the moment you just held your breath without realising, even that is part of the story. The same story the galaxies tell, the same story black holes whisper, the pull of the invisible. Now imagine this, a place where light disappears, not turned off like a switch, not dimmed like a candle, but drawn inward, gently, utterly, forever. That's a black hole, not a monster, not a hole, not a punishment, but a hush. A stillness so deep that even light cannot escape it. And yet it moves things, it shapes galaxies. It bends the very idea of time. Black holes are the secret caretakers of the universe. You don't see them, not directly, but their hands are everywhere. Like gravity, like love, like the things that change you without sound. They sit at the hearts of galaxies like silent watchers, not demanding, just being. Their pull is not violence, but inevitability. A soft calling that even light must answer. We often fear what we cannot see, but not all invisibility is absence. Some of it is mystery. Some of it is reverence. A black hole does not take, it gathers. It does not scream, it beckons. There is something holy in that, a kind of cosmic stillness that speaks more through its violence than all the bright stars around it. You might imagine it as a whirlpool, spinning in the velvet sea of space, pulling stars and light and time into itself. But that's only half the truth. A black hole is not just the end of something. It may also be the beginning of something else. A doorway, a pause, a transformation. And perhaps in your own life there are moments like that. Moments that seem like endings, like disappearances, like you've fallen out of the light. But maybe, Just maybe those moments are your black holes, turning points so quiet you didn't hear them shift. But afterward, everything is different. Even in their darkness, black holes guide. They hold galaxies together. Maybe the dark places in you do the same, falling without fear. So what happens if you fall in? Not violently, not screaming, just softly, as if taken by the hand by something you don't need to understand. That's what a black hole does. It doesn't yank or tear, it draws. And the closer you get, the slower time becomes, until the moment stretches like warm honey in sunlight, and you are no longer falling but floating in forever. At the edge of a black hole is something called the event horizon, the point of no return, but it doesn't feel like a wall. It feels like a question. It feels like stepping past the last line of a poem into a silence that listens back. To fall into a black hole is not to be crushed, not at first, and not for the one falling. From the outside, the world might see you slow, freeze, fade, but from inside it is quiet. It is still. It is surrender, and in that surrender is peace. This is not about danger, this is about letting go. What if sleep is your event horizon? The moment where thinking ends and dreaming begins, where the story no longer needs to be told because you become the story itself? So let yourself fall, not in fear, but in softness. Let the dark cradle you, not as an end, but as a return. The stars are still listening. The black holes are still holding secrets, and you're still part of it all. There is no bottom to this wonder, only depth, only drifting, only the calm of knowing that even in the unseen, you are not lost. Close your eyes, breathe slow, you are falling, and in falling, you are safe. Chapter 2, where light goes to rest. Close your eyes for a moment and think of light, not as a science word, not as a beam or a number, but as a feeling. A childhood morning when the sun touched your face, a warm cup of tea held near a golden window, the way someone's eyes catch a little shimmer when they laugh. That is light. Not just what helps us see, but what makes seeing beautiful. Light has always been with us. It's the first thing we notice when we wake, and often the last thing we remember before sleep. A flicker of moon outside the curtain, or the low hum of a lamp in the distance. It travels fast, unimaginably fast, yet it never feels rushed. Somehow it knows how to be gentle, to rest on the surface of a leaf without bruising it, to drift through a dusty room like it's remembering how the air used to feel. Scientists say light is both a wave and a particle, as if it dances and travels at the same time. But to us, it is also memory. It's a photo held in a wallet, a flickering candle in a dark chapel, a sudden moment of beauty that doesn't need to last long to last forever. Light makes the world feel alive, it makes time feel like a story. And yet, for all its speed, for all its shimmer, light is not immune to stillness. There are places in the universe that even it cannot cross. There are doors that do not slam shut, they simply fold so gently that light forgets how to return. But before we go there, let's follow light for a while longer. Let's watch it move, soft and unbothered, across the great quiet of space. A beam across the darkness. Picture a single beam of light, born in the heart of a distant star. It begins in fire, yes, but it doesn't burn. Instead, it glides. A shimmer set free, it leaves the sun with no plan, no map. Just motion, just the desire to reach. Through the silent dark it goes, not stopping, not slowing. In space there is no wind, no air, no resistance. Just darkness wide enough to swallow galaxies, and silence deep enough to hold forgotten songs. But still, light moves, like a ribbon unrolling endlessly, or a sigh that stretches across centuries. This single beam might travel for thousands, even millions of years, past planets and ice, past clouds of dust that glimmer like old dreams, past the cold bones of collapsed stars. And every place it touches, and even for a breath, becomes marked. A promise left behind, that something warm once passed this way. We think of light as a guide, the thing that helps us see. But sometimes it is also a question. Why does it keep going? Why doesn't it rest? Maybe because it believes. Maybe because it hopes. Maybe because in the wide emptiness of space, every beam of light is a quiet act of faith. But what happens when that faith meets a place where going forward is no longer possible? What happens when even light, so certain, so swift, is asked to stop? The horizon that hides, far out in the deep velvet of the cosmos, there are places where space folds like fabric, where the laws we thought we understood begin to murmur in riddles. Here, the straight lines of light begin to curve, not by force, but by gravity so strong it changes the shape of everything. And at the edge of this invisible fold lies something called the event horizon. A poetic name, isn't it? Not a wall, not a trap, just a horizon. A place where something begins, or ends, or perhaps both. The beam of light, still moving, still believing, approaches this horizon. It does not strike it. There's no impact, no flash. Instead, the space around the beam begins to bend, like a stream drawn toward a whirlpool or thought pulled into silence. The light keeps trying to move forward, but forward begins to lose meaning. Time and space, which once felt separate, begin to blur. Up and down become uncertain. Before and after begin to deceive. The light doesn't crash. It simply fades, not in brightness, but in motion. It is still there, but no longer ours to follow. This is the edge of a black hole. Not a hole in the way, a well is a hole, but more like a sigh that grew so heavy it collapsed into itself. A black hole doesn't chase the light. It waits. And when the light arrives, it does not resist. It rests. The event horizon is not violent. It is silent. A moment stretched so thin it becomes forever. It is where the journey stops, not because the traveller is lost, but because the road forgets to continue, the glow that still exists. So, is the light gone? That depends on what you mean by gone. Gone from sight? Yes. Gone from reach? Yes. But gone from existence? Not entirely. Light, like memory, leaves traces. A warmth that lingers in a room after the candle has been blown out. A glow that hums just beneath the silence. Even as it falls into the heart of a black hole, the light does not vanish in the way we fear. It crosses the horizon, yes, but it leaves a ripple behind, like a bell rung far away. The sound doesn't reach us, but we still feel the echo in our bones. Physicists call this a paradox, this lingering echo of light. Some believe it leaves behind a shadow in the fabric of space. Others believe its energy is woven into the very skin of the black hole itself. But tonight, let's believe something softer. That light, once given, is never truly lost. Think of the moments in your life that once shone, bright with laughter or love or gentle connection. Some of those moments may feel far away now, like beams of light that travelled with you for a while and faded into memory. But maybe they're not gone. Maybe they've only moved past the horizon of what you can hold. Dreams are like that. So are people. So are truths too big to say out loud. And so the beam of light does not die in the black hole. It simply becomes something else, something quieter, deeper, beyond our sight. It becomes a glow in the heart of the universe, humming softly where no one can hear, but everything can feel. So if you ever wonder where the light goes when it disappears, maybe it's not gone. Maybe it's just resting, waiting, becoming. And maybe tonight, as you drift into your own darkness, into the folds of sleep where even your thoughts begin to lose shape, the light in you is not fading, it's transforming, quietly, beautifully, like a beam crossing a horizon into a space where everything becomes soft and endless and whole. Chapter 3. The Quiet Architects of Gravity. There is a pull in this world that you cannot see. Not a push, not a shove, but a soft and ancient reaching. A thread drawn tight between every star and stone, every breath and body. You cannot touch it, yet it touches everything. You cannot hear it, but it never stops speaking. This is gravity. Not a force that screams, but a lullaby that never ends. You might imagine force as something loud, a hammer, a shout, a sudden fall. But gravity is nothing like that. It does not snap or jerk. It doesn't break things to get its way. Instead, it tugs, patiently, endlessly, with a volpi. with a softness deeper than silence. A whisper from one part of the universe to another, asking only to be near. When you drop a pebble, it doesn't fall because it's been pushed down. It falls because it remembers where the earth is. Gravity is the memory between things, the invisible thread that ties one thing to another across emptiness. It holds the moon in its dance around us. It draws oceans up into tides. It keeps our feet on the ground, not like shackles, but like a parent's hand, not clinging, but guiding. The planets in their slow spin, the galaxies in their graceful spirals, even the way you tilt when you sway, all of it is gravity, weaving its story softly, without ever asking to be seen. You are never alone because gravity is always with you. A presence without a face, a motion without sound, a quiet bond that holds everything together without ever needing applause. When mass becomes a message. Now imagine this. Everything in the universe, every stone, every breath, every mountain and molecule speaks to gravity. But not in words, it speaks in weight, in presence, in the way it takes up space and time. The more something weighs, the louder it speaks. Not in volume, but in pull. A whisper becomes a draw becomes a tug, and a tug becomes an orbit. A feather floats softly because its message is gentle. A star, however, leans hard into space, and space leans back. Mass is more than size, it's more than heaviness. It is a kind of cosmic signature. It tells the universe, yo, I am here, and the universe, hearing that voice, gathers around it. Space curves, time stretches, and the thread of gravity grows tighter. Even you have mass. You may not feel like a planet, but you still speak in this ancient language. Your body leaves a small impression on the space around it, like a handprint on soft cloth. You bend the universe in your own quiet way. You are not separate from this story. You are a chapter written into it. And the earth, heavy and ancient, calls to you with its gravity not to trap, but to welcome. To remind you where home is. You're pulled not by chains, but by belonging. You're not falling. You're being gathered. Held. Remembered. Every mass speaks. Every presence matters. The stars call out and the darkness curves in answer. The planets lean and the sky leans with them. You breathe, and even that becomes part of gravity's song, the curve beneath your feet. Try to imagine just for a moment that space is not flat, that beneath your bed, beyond your floor, under the dirt and the roots and the rock, and space itself is curving, and not sharply, not like a drop or a cliff, but gently, like a slow bend in a quiet stream, like a silk sheet with a single marble resting on it, pulling the fabric down in a soft cup. That's what Earth is doing to the space beneath you right now. Not holding you down, but curving space so subtly that your body naturally follows. When you walk, you're not pushing against gravity. You're moving along a path that's already drawn. The curve welcomes you. Every step you take is part of a journey that space has shaped for you. You're not falling toward the Earth. You're gliding through the curves it makes. This is why the planets don't crash into the sun. They are not being dragged. They are following the curves around it, like dancers tracing wide circles around a silent centre. They are falling, yes, but sideways forever, in a perfect loop that never lands. You too are part of this quiet motion. The chair beneath you, the air around you, the stars above you, all are drawn into shapes not by lines, but by curves. And these curves are gravity's handwriting etched gently into the fabric of the universe. You don't feel the bend, you don't see the curve, but it holds you just the same, with a touch so soft it becomes invisible, and a presence so constant it becomes holy. When gravity dreams big, but what happens when the message gets too loud? When a star speaks so powerfully with its mass that space cannot curve enough to hold it? This is when gravity begins to dream. It folds inward, slowly at first, like a thought curling back on itself. A massive star near the end of its life burns out its light and begins to collapse, not with rage but with surrender, not with noise but with depth. The gravity becomes too strong, and the space around it begins to fold tighter and tighter, until it wraps completely in on itself. The star disappears, not in fire, but in silence. It becomes a black hole, Not a hole, really, but a place where space and time have curved so deeply that they no longer remember how to unfold. Here, gravity is no longer a thread. It is a spiral, a whirlpool in the fabric of everything, a lullaby so deep even light falls asleep in it. This is not destruction, it is transformation, the quiet dream of mass becoming mystery. Black holes are not violent monsters, they are the deepest hush the universe knows how to make. A place where gravity's whisper becomes so soft, so full, so complete, that it begins to sing a different song. And inside that song we do not know what waits. But it may not be ending. It may be beginning. A doorway into something we cannot yet imagine. A dream still dreaming itself. So tonight, as you drift beneath your blanket, or imagine that even gravity dreams, that it curls itself into spirals, into folds, into stories not yet told, and you, held by Earth's soft curve, are part of that dream. Sleep now, dear traveller of wonder. The universe is still pulling, still holding, still whispering, and gravity, the quiet architect of all things, is gently singing you home.
Chapter 4. The Birth of a Black Hole.
There is a star far away, glowing in the velvet quiet of space, a giant among giants, ancient and blazing, its light touching corners of the cosmos we will never see. For millions of years it has burned with grace and purpose, a dance of fire and balance. Deep inside, the heart of this star is alive with fusion, hydrogen becoming helium, light becoming warmth, pressure becoming peace. Every second it battles its own weight, pushing outward with the fire it creates, holding back the gravity that wants to pull it inward. But even stars, mighty as they are, carry the burden of time, and some stars are born with too much mass, too much brightness, too much to hold. They shine so fiercely, so brilliantly, that they use up their fuel faster than the others. Their light is not careless, it is generous. It gives and gives until there is nothing left to give. And then comes the silence. The fusion falters, the balance is lost, there is no more fuel to push back against gravity. The star does not rage, it does not cry, it simply lets go. The outer layers, vast and glowing, begin to fall inward. The core, the very soul of the star, begins to shrink, not in defeat, but in surrender. You might imagine this as failure. But that's not what's happening. What you are witnessing is not a death, but a transformation. The star is collapsing, yes, but in that collapse, it is becoming something new, something more mysterious, more powerful, more silent than anything the universe has known. This is the beginning of a black hole, not born in destruction, but in the quiet devotion of a star that gave everything it had. A collapse without a sound. Imagine falling away, not through air or space, but through the very fabric of reality itself. That is what the core of the star is doing now. It is collapsing not slowly but suddenly and inwards, deeper, tighter, faster than anything you can see or feel. Gravity is no longer gentle, it is relentless. It does not pull, it devours. The outer layers rush inward, crashing into the centre, releasing a final burst of light, a supernova, a last radiant breath. But deep at the core, where the collapse continues, something quieter is happening. Light tries to escape, but the gravity is too strong. Even time begins to stretch, to slow, to tremble. Space folds inward, curled like paper under heat. And then, at the heart of it all, the core becomes a singularity, a point with no size but infinite density, a place where all the rules break, where space and time no longer make sense, where motion ends, and yet gravity becomes absolute. There is no explosion here, no echo, only the silence of something that has gone beyond what sound can reach. A collapse so perfect, so complete, it creates a region from which nothing, not light, not sound, not thought, can return. You cannot see this, not directly. All you see is the shadow it leaves behind. But that shadow is powerful, it pulls stars from their orbits. It bends light around it like glass. It carves valleys in the cosmos, and in that silence, that strange, impossible silence, a black hole is born, the shadow left behind. You stand at the edge of a mystery. Before you, not a thing, but a whole, not a place, but a presence. Black hole is not an object in the usual sense. It is a region, a boundary, a truth about gravity so intense that it becomes a kind of absence. And yet, it is not empty. No. A black hole is full, not of matter, but of memory. It remembers the star that became it. It holds the weight of all that once was, the fire, the light, the time. It is dense with stories, though it cannot speak them. The edge of this region is called the event horizon. Cross it and there is no coming back, not because you are trapped in a cage, but because the very rules of movement, of cause and effect, of past and future shift inside. It is not a place where things are destroyed. It is a place where things become unknowable. From the outside, a black hole looks dark, light cannot escape it. But that darkness is not nothing. It is a silence made of gravity, a stillness so deep it curves space around it. And what does that mean for something to curve space? It means the stars nearby shift. It means time runs differently close to it. It means light bends like water around a stone. It means this darkness has weight, this shadow has pull, this absence has meaning. You can orbit a black hole, you can fall into one, but you can never touch it and return. It is the cosmic horizon, the edge of knowability. And yet, its pull is part of the story of galaxies, of stars, of everything that orbits and swirls and burns in space. Even in shadow, it influences everything around it. It may be silent, but it is never still. The sky remembers its fallen flame. Above you, the stars wheel in silence. Galaxies turn like petals in water. Planets continue their slow, graceful arcs around suns. But in the heart of these rhythms, something has changed. Where once a star blazed with light and life, there is now an invisible force. And yet, the universe remembers. The black hole does not shine, but its presence is felt. The planets once warmed by its light still move, now drawn by its gravity. Gas and dust swirl toward it, circling in luminous spirals before disappearing. Light itself curves around it, creating rings of brilliance, an echo of the star it once was. In distant galaxies, entire clusters form around these centres, not because they are seen, but because they are felt. Black holes anchor more than space. They anchor time, motion, memory. To us they may seem like endings, but the sky doesn't think in endings. It remembers in motion, in gravity, in shape, the curve of a planet's path, the glow of matter drawn near, the strange dance of light around what cannot be seen. These are the sky's memories, and perhaps this is the deepest truth of all. What matters never truly disappears. The star is gone, its light spent. But because it mattered, because it gave everything, it left behind a presence so powerful it still shapes the world around it. A black hole is not the end of a story. It is the mark of one that was told so powerfully it could not be forgotten. As you lie back beneath the stars, breathing slow and soft, think of that. Of the stars that collapse not in failure but in surrender. Of the fire that ends in silence, not as a tragedy but as a transformation. Let that thought settle like stardust on your skin, a reminder that even the darkest places in the universe are born from something that once burned with unimaginable light. And perhaps in some way you carry that light still, even now, even here, as you close your eyes and drift gently into sleep. Chapter 5. The Event Horizon whispers. You drift slowly in the dark velvet of space. All around you, silence curls like smoke, not empty but full of unseen gravity, of a distant stars, of echoes long forgotten. Before you, nothing changes. No gate appears, no signal is given. There is no signpost in the stars, no warning in the dust, and yet you have arrived. This is the event horizon, but it doesn't feel like an edge. It doesn't feel like a wall. There's no impact, no barrier. Just a hush, a shift, a moment that feels like stepping from a familiar room into a dream where nothing holds its shape quite the same. The stars behind you still shimmer, the light still travels, and yet, as you move closer, something in the fabric of space begins to quiet, as if even the universe lowers its voice here. It's not a place you see, it's a moment you cross, a boundary drawn not with lines but with laws. Here, forward is possible, but return is not. Once your path passes this invisible line, the map folds behind you, not in punishment, but in truth. The event horizon is not a fence, it is a whisper, a place where presence becomes memory, where gravity stops asking and begins insisting, where direction becomes devotion, where the future begins to swallow the past, softly, completely. And still, nothing feels different. No shudder, no fall, only the gentle realization that from here onward, everything that follows becomes unknowable to the world you left behind. Time bends and bows. You float at the edge now, not falling, not flying, just moving without feeling of the movement. And something odd begins to happen, not outside of you, but within. The ticking of your mind starts to stretch. Each second becomes syrup. Each breath becomes a story. At the event horizon, time forgets how to be simple. It begins to bend, not break, but soften. Not stop, but curve. From your view, nothing seems wrong. Your pulse is calm, your thoughts are slow, your fall, if you can call it that, is silent. But to the world behind you, you begin to linger. You stretch across the stars like a smear of light, as if you're being painted into a single frame of forever. Time here does not tick. It bows. It bows to gravity so intense it slows the very rhythm of the universe. Seconds near the event horizon do not match seconds far away. And so, from afar, you begin to look still, frozen. A sculpture of light on the edge of disappearance. You are not frozen, but the world watching you thinks you are. To you, everything continues. But to them, the ones who stay outside, who orbit gently, who look through telescopes and dream of falling, you become a ghost made of time delay. A goodbye stretched across eternity. And that is the strange magic of this place. It bends not just space, but story. Here, your journey continues in silence, even as the world above keeps waiting for your last step that already happened. The observer's illusion. Imagine a friend watching you fall. From their safe orbit, they see you nearing the black hole. They watch you drift closer and closer to the horizon, and then, slowly, strangely, you begin to blur. Your light shifts, it reddens, it dims, and then you stop. Not because you hit something, but because from their view, time has stretched you so far you appear frozen. You become a photograph on a tomb, unmoving, unending, as if the fall never completes, as if the horizon itself refuses to let go of your image. They wait and wait, but they will never see you cross. That is the illusion. To the observer, the event horizon becomes a kind of pause button, a cosmic hesitation, a refusal to finish the sentence. But the truth is not what they see, because for you, the one falling, it's already happened. The moment passed without pain, without notice. You cross the horizon in silence. And now you drift in a world where the rules are not the same. But to them, you remain at the edge, stretched and red and quiet, not moving, not falling, as if the black hole is unwilling to finish your story, as if it wants to hold on to your light a little longer. And that is one of the great cosmic kindnesses. The event horizon allows both truths to exist. Yours, the gentle passage into mystery. Theirs, the lingering image of your light suspended forever in view. Neither is wrong, both are beautiful, both are part of what it means to touch the edge of a black hole, to dance at the line between being seen and being remembered. What happens when you cross? And now you are beyond the edge. There is no feeling, no jolt, no alarm, just quiet. You're inside. The event horizon now behind you does not close like a door. It stays open but unreachable. You could look back but not return, and the farther in you go, the stranger time becomes. Inside a black hole, physics begins to speak in a language we cannot yet read. A language without light, without outside, without return. The pull becomes complete. The future becomes singular. A single path, inward, downward, deeper. Not like falling through air, but like being drawn by purpose. Everything in you, your atoms, your thoughts, your motion, bends toward a single point, not from fear, but from inevitability. The singularity at the centre waits not like a threat, but like a silence so complete it contains all the sounds that could have been. It is not a place we can reach with telescopes or formulas, only with imagination. And so imagine this, a place where mass is infinite and size is none, where light cannot orbit, but is absorbed, where space ends in a question, not a wall, not a void, a question. What happens here, no one knows. And maybe that is the point. That even in a universe filled with equations and observations, there are still thresholds we cross into wonder. Maybe inside a black hole, all the stories ever told fold into each other. Maybe time is not lost, only rewound, reshaped, reborn. Maybe what falls here becomes part of something bigger than understanding. Maybe what crosses is not erased, but held like breath by the very fabric of space. And so, as you move inward, let go of the need to know. Let the mystery hold you. Let the whisper of the event horizon stay with you. A soft reminder that even the sharpest boundaries in the universe can feel like a sigh. That even the end of knowledge can be soft, sacred, and strangely calm. Sleep now, in the silence of the stars. Sleep where light bends and time forgets. Sleep as if the universe itself is tucking you gently beyond the horizon. Chapter 6. The Singularity at the Centre. There is a place where direction folds, where space forgets how to stretch, and time no longer remembers how to pass. It is not far, yet it is unreachable. It is not wide, but it holds the weight of worlds. This place is called the Singularity, and it is not a place at all. You drift inward, pulled not by speed, but by surrender. You pass the event horizon, and behind you, the universe becomes memory. Ahead of you, the universe becomes mystery. There is no path, only pull. There is no shape, only depth. And at the very centre of this strange sacred journey, there is a single point. A point so small it cannot be measured, so dense it cannot be imagined. It has no width, no edge, no inside or outside. It exists not as a thing, but as a truth. A whisper in the mathematics of the cosmos, the singularity. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, but everything you know bends toward it. Matter, light, time, memory, thought. All fall inward, pulled not by force but by inevitability. It is the most silent place the universe has ever made, but its silence is not emptiness. It is full of everything that came before, every star that collapsed, every moment that led here, every ripple of space curled so tightly that it becomes stillness. And yet this stillness contains thunder. Not the sound of it, but the potential. The pause before a word. The breath before creation. You are now near a point that has no space and yet carries all the mass of a world. You are near a centre that is not central. A dot with infinite depth. A nothing that weighs more than everything. The end of knowing. As you move closer, not in steps but in surrender, your mind begins to loosen, not with fear, but with wonder. Everything you've trusted begins to shimmer. The rules you once held, about motion, about cause, about time, begin to contradict. The physics you know tries to describe this place, but the equations falter. They twist and collapse like ladders that cannot reach this far. They speak of infinite density, of zero volume, words that sound sharp but feel soft in this place of paradox. You're not afraid, only quiet. The singularity is not a place of chaos. It is a place of forgetting, of dissolving, of resting. Here, gravity no longer behaves like a pull. It becomes a shape, a presence, an idea. Space does not curve, it caves. Time does not tick, it trembles. The closer you drift, the less separate you feel. From stars, from stones, from silence itself. The boundary between what is you and what is beyond you starts to blur. You are not disappearing, you are merging. You begin to understand without words that the singularity is not something to solve, it is something to listen to. A sacred silence, a centre of everything only, and nothing. A place where questions no longer need answers, they only need rest. And so you rest. Not in ignorance, but in awe. Not because you've stopped searching, but because you've reached a place where even searching becomes still. Everything at once. Imagine for a moment that everything has folded into one breath. Every star ever born, every kiss of wind, every step on every world gathered, pressed into one point, one pulse, one shimmer of presence, no space between them, no timeline threading them, just all. All at once. This is what the singularity holds. Not separated things, not sorted events, but all together, without time to divide them or space to keep them apart. It is not chaos, it is the end of separation. Where light does not travel, it simply is. Where moments do not follow, they coexist. Where matter is not scattered it emerged. And you too are part of this. You are not watching from outside, you are within. The thoughts in your mind, the cells of your skin, the atoms of your breath, though they are no longer apart from the stars that collapsed here. They are the same. You are part of the singularity's memory. Not a fragment, but a whole. A note in the chord, a breath in the silence. And as you feel this, you begin to let go of needing to measure. You stop needing to ask how big, or how dense, or how long. These questions do not live here. What lives here is being. Pure, present, unbroken being. You begin to feel what it means to exist without distance, without later, without before, just here, just now, just everything, held in a single dot of unseeable, unspeakable reality. It is not something you fall into, it is something you dissolve into, softly, like mist joining the sea, like a breath returning to the wind, the stillness beyond form. And now all form falls away, not shattered, not broken. Just unneeded. Shapes were for places with space, edges were for times with direction. But here, inside the singularity, there is no need for edges anymore. There are no circles, no lines, no borders. You do not float, you do not fall, you simply are. Gravity has curled itself into stillness. Not sleep. Stillness. A sacred pause, a breath held forever. The same gravity that once pulled stars into orbit, that once carved galaxies from dust, now rests at the heart of itself. And in that rest, something deeper stirs. Not motion, not light, but the echo of creation itself. A whisper that never ends. The same whisper that may have spoken the universe into being, now curls in silence here too. This is not a place of destruction, it is a place of returning. Everything comes home, here. Energy, memory, space, even time. They arrive like rivers flowing into a sea with no shore. And in that sea they are not lost, they are absorbed. What lies beyond this stillness? We do not know, we may never know, but perhaps that is the beauty. That even in a universe of maps and models, there are still sacred places where the only thing to do is wonder. So tonight, as you close your eyes, remember this. There is a place deep in the folds of the cosmos where everything becomes one, where light and time and thought stop running and start resting. Let that stillness settle in your chest. Let it quiet your mind. Let it draw your own thoughts inward, gently, until you too feel what it means to be part of something endless. Not explained, not solved, just held. Sleep now softly. Sleep like gravity finally at peace. Chapter 7. Time inside the spiral. There is a place in the universe where clocks no longer tick, where the seconds do not follow one another like soldiers on parade, but instead collapse into one another like waves folding into foam. Time, the quiet ruler of all things, begins to tremble here. Not with violence, but with surrender. The moment you pass the edge of a black hole, the event horizon, something strange begins. Your watch might still move. Your heartbeat might still count its rhythm. But the world outside can no longer agree with you. Time bends inward, like a leaf caught in a whirlpool, not breaking, not tearing, just spiralling endlessly softly toward a centre that doesn't seem to arrive. Here, a second can stretch beyond the stars. The blink of an eye becomes a window into forever. You might fall for an instant, yet the universe outside will watch you slow and slow and slow until you seem frozen. paused on the edge of existence while time races forward elsewhere. You do not age here as others do. You do not move through hours or days. You dissolve into a moment that refuses to end. It is not pain, it is not confusion. It is a kind of stillness so deep, even questions fall quiet. Imagine the ticking of a clock, soft, dependable, patient. Now imagine each tick becoming longer, softer, deeper, until each sound stretches into silence. Not because the clock has stopped, but because time itself has softened into a spiral. A whirl of motion, yes, but inward, always inward. Like a spiral galaxy viewed from within, except you are not the observer anymore. You are the spiral. The curvature of time begins to hold you, cradle you, slow you, until even slowness itself loses meaning. Time here does not move away from you. It moves toward you. Everything that was once ahead, your future, your destination, your unfolding story, begins to fold back upon itself. You are not walking through time now. Time is walking through you, the future beneath your feet. You are falling, and yet you are still. This is the paradox of time inside the spiral. You descend into the black hole, but there is no sensation of descent. No wind rushing past, no ground to meet. Instead, it feels like hovering over something that already knows you, as if the future is not something to chase, but something quietly waiting beneath your feet. In this space, time does not stretch forward like a road. It collapses, folds, breathes in strange directions. The path ahead, the path behind. They meet, they embrace, they vanish. You no longer know what next means. Every possibility, every could be, seems to sit inside you all at once. You're a story told in reverse, in spirals, in whispers, and yet you remain, awake, aware, and strangely still. The language of time becomes unfamiliar. Later has no echo here. Before holds no weight. You remember walking, choosing, becoming. But now all choices sit together like pages pressed in a book, closed, quiet, whole. The future does not come toward you anymore. It is already beneath you, like stepping into footprints you didn't know you left, like seeing the bloom of a flower while still holding the seed. Outside, a galaxy turns, suns are born, planets spin. But here, inside the spiral, time has grown so heavy it lies down, and in its place rises something softer, something like understanding, not knowledge, not answers, just a sense that everything is already known, already held, already here. You do not move toward fate. Fate breathes with you. If you could look around, you would see nothing and everything. Light curves in, motion curves in, and meaning curves in. The world has not stopped. It has folded. You are not trapped in a hole. You are nestled in a pause so perfect it doesn't need to end. The spiral does not demand. It offers a rest, a stillness, a letting go, the gravity of memory. And now memory begins to change, not in content, but in shape. You do not remember the way you used to. It isn't a thread anymore, running from past to present. It is a pool, wide, still, waiting. In this gravity, memories sink, not lost, but deepened. You do not revisit them like a traveller retracing steps. You dissolve into them. You become memory itself. Imagine standing in a room that once belonged to you. The air still smells of your laughter. The floor still holds your shadow, but now you are not just remembering it, you are it. You are the chair you once sat in. You are the light that came through the curtains. Time has curved so far inward that the distance between now and then is gone. Memory is not behind you, it surrounds you. You may recall a touch, a voice, a choice you made long ago, but instead of watching it from afar, you become the warmth of that touch. You become the sound of that voice. You become the breath of that choice, repeating in soft ripples across your being. This is not confusion. This is intimacy. In the spiral, there is no timeline to chase, only a depth to fall into, and find yourself already there. The mind, once so busy with arranging moments like beads on a string, no longer needs to organize. Everything is present. Every joy, every sorrow, every silence, all held together by the weightless hand of gravity so strong it bends even remembrance. There is no need to ask, when did that happen? There is no when. There is only is. only now which contains all the then. You remember not because you try, but because remembering and being are the same. You do not reach backward. You do not reach forward. You simply are, in a moment that has gathered every other moment into its arms. This too is time, not ticking, not racing, but waiting, holding, becoming, a clock made of silence. And now you listen, not for sound, but for the absence of it. Not for the tick of a clock, but for the stillness that follows when all ticking is done. Inside the spiral, time does not scream or groan or pulse. It hums and then quiets. Not because it is broken, not because it is gone, but because it is whole. A story told, a circle closed, a breath completed. If time were music, this is the final note. Not fading away, but echoing forever in the stillness after it ends. A clock here does not chime, it rests. Not as a machine abandoned, but as a song that no longer needs to be sung. The silence is not empty. It is full of everything that ever was, now resting in completion. You stand, or rather you float, in a place where time no longer moves. And yet you are not lost. You are not waiting. You are simply inside a moment that contains no other moment. There is nothing to count. No past to regret. No future to fear. Just the breath you are in and the space it unfolds into. The clock does not count seconds anymore. It does not ask you to move. It invites you to stay. It is a sundial beneath no sun, a metronome without a beat, a calendar with only one perfect day. You do not miss the ticking. You do not crave its return, because in this quiet, something ancient is known, that time was never about measurement. It was about meaning. And now, meaning rests. You're inside the spiral, inside the hush. And here, there is no race, no schedule, no end. Only the feeling of time not slipping away, but softly finishing its sentence. And as you listen to this silence, let yourself drift. Let the spiral cradle you. Let the weight of all you have ever been settle into the stillness. Time has not stopped. It has exhaled. And you, in turn, may close your eyes, not because the story is over, but because the spiral is complete. Chapter 8. The Light That Traces the Edge. Light, in its freedom, is one of the purest things in nature. It travels straight, unhindered, untouchable. A beam from a star stretches across the void for millions of years, never tiring, never turning, always moving forward. But there are places where even light must yield, not to darkness, not to walls, but to the curve of space itself. Near a black hole, space is not flat. It is soft, like fabric weighted down in the middle, folding gently in ways your senses cannot feel but your soul might recognize. Here, light bends, not because it wants to, but because the very map it follows, the map of space, has been changed. Imagine a mirror, left too long in the heat of the sun. It warps, curves, becomes something more liquid than solid. The reflections it gives are no longer direct. They shimmer, they spin, they reveal without revealing. That is what happens to light near a black hole. It still travels as always, forward, straight, honest, but the path it follows is no longer what you expect. Space itself has curved, like ripples in water circling a drain. Light now dances in arcs. What once would have passed by in a straight line is now caught, delayed, deflected. What you see is not the true path, but the painting left behind on the air. You may gaze at a black hole and think you're seeing behind it. You may think you're seeing light from a star that lies to the side or beyond. But what you're seeing is the memory of light, twisted, redirected, stitched into a new position by gravity's touch. The space around a black hole becomes a curved mirror, not one that reflects you directly, but one that whispers secrets in circles. You do not look into this mirror to see yourself. You look into it to feel the shape of what cannot be touched. In this warped ballet, the universe becomes unfamiliar, a fun house of shimmer, not a deception, but a new truth, where direction loses its meaning and certainty dissolves into curvature. You do not walk a straight line here, nor does the light. It follows the rules, but the rules have been bent. The ring that isn't there. There is a place around a black hole where light doesn't escape, and it doesn't fall in either. It simply circles, forever. This place is called the photon sphere, and it is not a structure, not a wall, not something you can touch. It is a location carved by gravity, precise and fragile. A ring that isn't there and yet it shines. Imagine a halo, not of gold but of light itself, orbiting in silence. Photons trapped in perfect dance, their steps choreographed by gravity so intense it has shaped their fate. This isn't a prison, it's a performance. Each beam of light is moving at its purest speed, its truest direction. And still it is bound, because the space it dances through has no straight path left. The photon sphere is not where light gives up. It is where light becomes eternity, a glimmer that loops again and again, painting its own trail into the silence. You could never stand there. You could never reach out and touch this ring, but you can see its glow, the faint halo around the mouth of the black hole, a border between what falls and what flees. And though it looks like a solid circle, it is not made of a single beam. It is echoes, millions of photons, millions of stories, curved and bound by the invisible hand of gravity. The ring isn't a structure. It is a moment stretched across time. Each glimmer you see has travelled 100 different paths to arrive at your eye, looping and bending, delayed and bent again, until it settles in that soft outline, like a breath around a whisper. What makes the photon sphere so beautiful is that it shouldn't exist with some, and yet it does. It is a liminal space, not quite freedom, not quite fall. It is the edge of decision, where light chooses neither path and simply becomes the border itself. You do not watch it like a fire, you feel it like a memory. It is not brightness, it is presence. A quiet reminder that even light can be caught in the turning of the cosmos, not destroyed, not dimmed, just redirected into something gentle, infinite and curved. Illusions from the abyss. You are watching the stars. They look sharp, clear, familiar. But around the black hole something is different. Stars seem closer. Galaxies appear stretched. Shapes bend, colours shift. And yet nothing has moved. The light has simply passed near the abyss. And in doing so it has become part of an illusion. But this illusion is not a trick. It is a truth, just told differently. Gravity, when strong enough, becomes a lens, not a glass one, but a warping of space itself. As the light from distant stars flows past the black hole, it bends. And to you, those stars appear elsewhere, closer or stranger than they really are. You're not looking at their true location. You're looking at their shadowed echo. It's like peering into water. You see the sky, the trees, your own face, but not as they are reflected, shifted by waves, changed by ripples. The black hole does this too. It stretches time, it bends light. It magnifies the quiet shimmer of galaxies, creating circles of ghostly beauty called Einstein rings, full halos of light, made not by magic, but by the weight of the abyss. Even time itself joins the illusion. For an outside observer, the black hole seems to slow everything near it. Light that once arrived in an instant now takes longer. You see things not as they are, but as they were. The closer to the edge, the more the delay. And yet, to the one falling in, time feels normal. The illusion lives only in the eye of the distant. It is easy to forget, when watching such distortion, that the black hole itself does not shine. It gives no light. All beauty you see is borrowed, is bent from other stars, refracted from other paths. The black hole takes, and in doing so reveals. It becomes visible only by what it consumes. Not like fire, but like silence between notes, shaping the music by its pores. This is not deception. This is perspective. The cosmos reminding you that what you see is not always what is. And in that space between truth and vision, awe can bloom. Watching what cannot be watched. You cannot look inside a black hole. You cannot peer past the event horizon. No telescope, no eye, no light escapes from within. But still we watch. Not the core, not the bedtime, but the edge. We watch the outline, the absence, the place where presence ends. It is like watching someone walk into fog. You see their shape, you see their direction, and then, gone. Not suddenly, Not violently, just no longer visible. The fog does not push, it does not pull, it only hides. The black hole too does not shout. It whispers, it takes quietly, and in its taking it marks its shape. You trace its outline not through brightness, but through darkness. Not through detail, but through the way it warps the world around it. The stars behind it curve, the galaxies beside it stretch. The photon sphere glows faintly, drawing a border like a frame. You do not see the black hole, you see the silence it casts. Even now, when we capture its image, a dark circle surrounded by a ring of fire, we are not seeing the hole itself. We are seeing its hunger, its influence, the way it bends what is around it. That image is not a photograph. It is a story told by light that almost escaped, but didn't. And yet, from this absence comes the deepest kind of knowing. The kind you feel in your chest when someone leaves, or when a shadow moves through your memory. We do not need to see the heart of the black hole to feel its shape. We watch what cannot be watched by watching what it changes. A leaf drifting in air tells us where the wind goes. So too does light drifting near the edge of this dark well. You stand at the edge of understanding, not to cross, but to wonder. To feel the pull, the stillness, the bending of the cosmos. And in this quiet, in this curve of space and story, you realise something gentle. Not all truths need to be seen. Some can simply be traced. Like footsteps in snow, like echoes in the dark, like lights circling a silence so deep it teaches you how to dream. Chapter 9. Soundless giants in the sky. There are places in the universe where silence reigns. Not the silence of quiet rooms or distant forests, but a deeper hush, one made not of absence, but of power. For a long time, black holes belonged to this silence. They were not seen, they were not heard, they made no sound, cast no light, revealed no form. They were only possibilities, invisible giants imagined in the equations of physicists and the dreams of curious minds. You could not look through a telescope and find one. You could not point a finger and say, there it is. Instead, you had to listen in other ways, not with ears, not even with eyes, but with attention, with patience, with the kind of quiet watching that notices when something doesn't move the way it should. The universe, after all, has its rhythm. Stars orbit, galaxies spin, and light flows in lines too fine for the eye to follow. But sometimes something shifts. A star begins to wobble too quickly. A galaxy curves a little too sharply. And in that tiny irregularity, something begins to whisper. Not loudly, not clearly, but just enough. The story of black holes is not the story of a sudden discovery. It is the story of waiting, of noticing, of listening to the universe when it says, in quiet breath, there is something here, something massive, something hidden, something that touches everything around it yet remains unseen. Like a wind you can't feel but still see in the motion of leaves. Black holes announce themselves not by showing up, but by shaping everything near them. We did not see the thing. We saw the effect. We saw light bend. We saw motion curve, and in that bending, in that strange curving of the cosmos, we found a silence that spoke louder than sound. You're not listening to noise here. You're listening to gravity, to the way space itself leans, to the way time stretches in one direction more than another. The whisper is subtle, but steady. And if you're quiet, Pavomsin, truly quiet, you begin to hear it. The strange dance of stars. High above in the velvet dark, stars move in loops and spirals. Some drift slowly, some swirl in tight patterns. But once in a while, astronomers saw something strange. A star dancing with a partner that could not be seen. Not a dim star, not a hidden planet. Nothing. And yet the dance was unmistakable. Imagine watching a leaf spin, circling around an invisible point. You see no wind, no hand, but the movement is too precise, too rhythmic to be random. That's what the stars did. They spun as if held by a tether, drawn towards something sentient but massive. Each orbit told a story of presence without sight. At the centre of some galaxies, stars whipped around tight corners at impossible speeds. And when scientists looked to the centre, they found nothing. Nothing except gravity. the kind that could only belong to something unimaginably dense, something small yet vast in pull. The mass was there. The math confirmed it, but the eye found only darkness. This was no ordinary dark. This was the kind that pulled in everything: light, time, certainty. The stars weren't just moving fast. They were responding to a hidden weight, a presence that left no glow, no trace, only the dance it caused. In this dance, astronomers began to believe, not because they saw the black holes, but because the stars around them could not move that way without help. The invisible became undeniable, not from direct proof, but from harmony, from the way every nearby note played to the same silent conductor. You can almost picture it now, a lonely star circling emptiness, again and again, always pulled, never released, and around that motion a quiet truth takes form. The giant may be soundless, but its dance is written in the sky. When light moves wrong, light is honest. It travels straight, fast, clean. It carries the story of distant suns across impossible gulfs of space. And yet, there were places where it behaved strangely, places where its path curved, its timing changed, as if it had passed through something dense and invisible, something that bent its journey like a river carving around a stone. This was another clue, another whisper. Something dark was changing the behaviour of light itself, not scattering it, not absorbing it like smoke, but curving it, delaying it, shifting it into strange shapes. It was as if space had been stretched in a way that the light had to follow, as if there were ghosts standing between us and the stars, not blocking the view, but warping it. Imagine looking at a friend through thick glass. Their image bends, their voice distorts, but they're still there. That's what happened with starlight. As it passed near certain regions of the sky, it came out changed, delayed, moved. And by measuring these changes, by tracing the curves and echoes, scientists began to see the shape of something they could not see. Not the black hole itself, but its influence, its gravity. This light, in all its oadhans, became a messenger. It revealed the architecture of the invisible. Beams that should have passed us by instead circled back. Some were bent into halos, others were delayed by minutes, hours, even years. The black hole had no light of its own, but it bent all the light that came near it, sculpting pictures made of distortion, illusions made of gravity. The cosmos, it seemed, was filled with these tricks of the unseen, and yet they were not tricks, they were truth, just wrapped in strangeness. Through these changes in light, we began to map the shape of darkness. We began to believe not because we saw less, but because we saw more than we expected, and realised something enormous was bending the rules. Even now, when we look up, some of the stars we see are not where they seem. They have been refracted by these silent giants. The light we see has walked a longer road. But in that delay, in that detour, it told us something beautiful. There is more here than we can see, believing in the invisible. To believe in black holes is to believe in something that cannot be touched, cannot be held, cannot be seen. At first, this felt like faith. Not faith in miracles, but faith in numbers, in patience, in silence that had weight. Science, often thought to be only about what is provable, made room for belief. Not blind belief, but a gentle trust that the universe, in all its vastness, was hiding truths too quiet to shout. Black holes were among these truths. For years they lived only in thought, in the sketches of theory and the whispers of evidence. And yet slowly they became real. Not from pictures, not from noise, but from patterns. From stars that spun too fast. From light that bent too much. From motions that only made sense if something unseen was behind them, the invisible left fingerprints. And we, as watchers of the sky, learned to read them. There was a time when people doubted, when scientists themselves hesitated. Could something really exist that swallowed even light? Could nature make an object so dense, so dark, so final? But over time the doubt softened, because the evidence did not scream, it whispered. And in those whispers, a kind of quiet certainty formed. You do not need to see the tree to know it's there. You can feel its shade, you can watch its leaves stir the wind. So too with black holes. We may not see them, but their shadow falls across stars. Their pull shapes galaxies, their silence sings through space. And now, when we believe in black holes, we are not believing in absence. We are believing in effect, in consequence, in presence that leaves a mark without ever showing its face. That is the beauty of it, the wonder, that we, small beings on a quiet planet, can know something exists not by seeing it, but by feeling the universe curve around it. So tonight, as you drift into rest, let that truth settle in your heart, that some of the most powerful things are silent, that some truths do not shine, they bend the light of others, and that belief sometimes is not weakness, but listening to the stillness, to the pull, to the gentle voice of something vast, just beyond the edge of what we can see and see. Chapter 10. The first glimpse of the unseeable. There are moments in human history when something soft breaks through the silence, not with a roar, not with a grand parade, but with a hush so profound that it travels farther than sound. In April of 2019, the world fell into one of those silences, a moment when humanity blinked together across borders and oceans and turned its collective gaze toward a shadow it had never truly seen. It began not with a single telescope, but with many, distant, scattered and quiet. Some perched on mountain peaks where the air is thin and crisp. Others stood in deserts so dry that clouds barely dared to form. One even sat upon the frozen stillness of Antarctica. Each one alone could not pierce the veil of the void. But together and stitched across continents like threads of thought, they formed one eye, an eye as wide as the earth blinking into the dark. This was the Event Horizon Telescope, a name too large to hold in your hands, but one that felt just right for what it hoped to see. Not a single machine, but a network. Not one voice, but a chorus. When they gazed as one, aligned by timing more precise than heartbeat, they became something astonishing. A planet-sized lens, an artificial pupil, a mirror for shadows. They did not look at stars, for stars are easy to find. They turned instead to a galaxy far beyond our own. Messier 87, a place so distant its light had been travelling since before humanity formed its first words. In the heart of that galaxy something stirred, something immense, something silent, something that consumed everything it touched, including light itself. To see it required patience beyond reckoning, years of planning, months of data, nights of stillness. And when the fragments came together, the signals from around the world whispering their part, a shape began to form. Not a sharp photograph, not a clear portrait, but an impression, a glow, a silhouette against eternity. The world waited, and then it saw. The golden ring appears. It was not the picture people expected, not bright, not crisp, not like a star or a planet or anything that might hang in a child's textbook. It was blurred, hazy, soft around the edges, but in that softness was something unmistakable. A ring, glowing, uneven, gold, a circle of light bending around a darkness so deep even photons could not escape it. The centre was not empty. It was absence shaped by gravity, not a hole in space, but a presence too dense to be seen. The ring formed around it, a fragile glow of captured light, dancing on the edge of nothing. This was not a light from within the black hole. Black holes do not shine. They do not glow. They do not whisper. What we saw was the glow of matter just outside it, swirling, stretching, heating into fire, caught in the last gasp of freedom. Light bent by the black hole's gravity had circled around, twisting like smoke around a candle's flame looping back toward us. The ring was not the object. It was the trace. And yet, when it appeared, people felt as if they already knew it. Because we had imagined it for so long. For decades, scientists had drawn it. Animators had built it into their dreams of space. Physicists had described its curve with mathematics so subtle it could sketch the outline of the unseeable. And now the outline was here, real, confirmed. What surprised many was not that it existed, but that it looked so much like what we had dreamed. Like an old friend stepping from shadow into light, not with surprise but with familiarity. We had waited for it, and it had waited for us. The golden ring wasn't just a scientific milestone. It was a soft echo of the questions we had carried for generations. What does the unknown look like? How close can we come to the edge of what we cannot touch? And in that glowing ring we found an answer that asked no questions in return. It simply was. Echoes across time. That golden light had travelled far, longer than memory, longer than myth. When the light left the black hole's embrace, there were still mammoths walking the earth. Human civilizations had not yet carved their names into stone. That light had circled, delayed by gravity, bent by immense mass, and wandered through space for millions of years. And then, like a message in a bottle, it arrived. A signal from the past, a whisper from a time when even our sky looked different. The black hole did not send it. It did not cry out. It did not know we were watching. But the light made the journey anyway, and when it reached us, we were finally ready. We had built machines delicate enough to feel the timing of a photon. We had crafted algorithms to weave noise into structure. We had trained ourselves to see patterns in the chaos. And with all of that, not just hardware but heart, we pieced the image together. You are not looking at something present. You are seeing something ancient, something that unfolded long before we existed. The golden ring is not now. It is then. A story told slowly, patiently, in the only language the universe always speaks, light. But even light struggles near a black hole. Time itself bends, distorts, becomes uncertain. What we saw may have circled the black hole once, or hundreds of times. It may have stretched across eons. That light is not just bent by space, it is bruised by time, and yet it endured. It passed through storms of dust, through radio waves and solar flares, through the gravity wells of other stars. It wandered toward Earth without knowing it had a destination. And when it reached us, it left a mark. Not just on film, but in the quiet spaces of our minds. That ring is not just a picture, it is proof that even what seems lost, swallowed silence, gone, can return. It may take longer than we can imagine, but it can find us. And when it does, it may bring a kind of beauty we never expected. The moment the universe spoke back. We have stared into space for so long, wondering, asking, reaching. Our instruments are like arms, our equations like poetry written in starspeak. We seek not because we are lost, but because we long to know where we stand. And in 2019 the universe answered. Not loudly, not with fireworks, but with a shape. A silence given form, a curve of gold framing the unknowable. That was the moment the universe spoke back. Not with certainty, not with finality, but with wonder, with a whisper that echoed across cultures, languages, beliefs. Because to see the unseeable is not just science, it is something sacred. A reminder that even the vast, indifferent cosmos can stir awe in the human soul. The ring did not bring closure. It opened more doors than it closed. What lies beyond it? What happens inside? What else might we see if only we open our eyes wider, reach farther? But none of those questions mattered in that first moment. In that breath when we looked, together, and saw. When the silent weight of the black hole curved light into art. When absence became presence. When the invisible wore a halo. We had asked the universe, "Do you hold secrets?" And it answered, gently, yes. And now you, resting in this quiet hour, are part of that story. You carry the memory of that glimpse. You hold inside you the shape of something once thought unknowable. So close your eyes, if you haven't already. Let the image linger, that golden ring against a field of dark. Let it soften into your dreams. Not every answer must be loud. Not every discovery must explain. Some things simply appear, and in their appearing they remind us we are capable of wonder. We are patient enough to listen, and the universe in its own time is willing to answer. Even now it speaks, softly, through light, through silence, through a ring that glows on the edge of forever. Chapter 11. When two black holes fall in love, far beyond what our eyes can see, past the reach of starlight and the edge of even our deepest dreams, something ancient begins. It is not loud. There is no blaze, no thunder, no herald of what's to come. Only motion, only gravity, only two black holes, invisible, immense, circling one another in the dark. They do not glow, they do not pulse, they do not announce themselves in any of the ways we have grown used to. Yet they are there, dancing slowly, like distant shadows in the ballroom with no walls. One turns, then the other, drawn not by sight or sound, but by the irresistible pull of each other's gravity. Imagine two lovers who have never spoken, who simply move closer with each silent step, as if fate were choreographing something sacred. Their orbits tighten slowly. At first, the distance between them is vast, but gravity is patient. It does not rush, it beckons, and they obey. They spin together across time. Millions of years may pass, or more, while they circle, spiraling inward. They do not know that anything is changing. They are just moving, just responding. A rhythm older than stars and a courtship carved into the very bones of space. Each revolution brings them closer. The dance becomes faster, tighter. The spiral sharpens. Still, no light shines. Still, there is no sound. But the energy builds. Like pressure in a deep ocean trench, something begins to stir. Not yet a wave, not yet a tremor, just closeness, a promise. The universe holds its breath, and in that breath, two black holes, immense beyond imagination, fall toward each other. Not by choice, not by force, but by the pure inevitable poetry of gravity. A ripple in the fabric, and then it happens. There is no explosion, no flare, no shockwave of light, but space itself moves. The fabric of the universe, usually still and silent, ripples, not like water disturbed by a stone, more like velvet touched by breath. The merger of two black holes does not create noise, it creates a wave, a gravitational wave, a ripple of curvature rolling out from the site of collision. It spreads in all directions, through stars, through galaxies, through the darkness between. It travels not through air, not through matter, but through the very medium of existence. If you could see it, it would look like nothing. The wave is not light, it does not shimmer, but it changes the distance between things, just a little, a trillionth of a fraction of a hair's width. But it is real, it is motion. It is the afterglow of love written in gravity. The wave carries no image of the black holes, no snapshot, it carries only the memory of motion, the final few spirals, the merging of what once was two, and now is one. What remains is bigger, heavier, quieter. A single black hole where there were once two. The dance is over, the spin has stopped. But the ripple keeps going across the universe, across space-time, and though it cannot be heard in the way you hear musical thunder, it is not silent. It is a message, a sigh, a kind of murmur from the cosmos, saying, I was here, we were here, and now we are one. The universe does not need language to speak. Sometimes it speaks in waves, and sometimes, if you are quiet enough, you can feel it. The LIGO awakening. On Earth, there were those who waited, not with telescopes or satellites, but with machines so delicate they could measure the breath of reality itself. In underground halls and long corridors lined with light, lasers moved in silence, bouncing between mirrors hung in stillness. These machines belonged to LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, a name that sounds like a riddle, but is really just a listening device, a way of tuning in, not to sound, but to space, not to light, but to change. And one day, in 2015, the waiting paid off. The ripple arrived, not like a wave crashing, not like a roar. It passed like a whisper, too faint for ears, but not for lasers. The mirrors shifted ever so slightly. The beams trembled by less than a fraction of an atom. And yet, it was enough. The machines recorded it. The signal, small, brief, but unmistakable. A chirp. A moment. The universe, for the first time, had spoken in this new way. Scientists wept. Not because it was loud, but because it was true. For 100 years, Einstein had predicted that gravitational waves were real, that the fabric of space could ripple, that massive things in motion could send those ripples across time, but no one had ever heard them until that moment. It was like tuning into a new channel and hearing the first note of a symphony that had been playing all along. We just hadn't had the ears to hear it. The merger of two black holes had happened over 1 billion years ago, and now, after all that time, Earth had felt it. Not with tremors or terror, but with awe. It was not just the detection of a wave, it was the awakening of a new sense. We had learned how to listen to the quietest music in the universe, The sky learns to sing. Now we know something we didn't know before. The sky doesn't just shine, it sings. Not with notes, not with sound, but with motion, with waves, with deep, slow vibrations that travel farther than light and last longer than sound. Black holes, once thought to be bedtime, have become composers. Their collisions are not destruction, they are creation of rhythm, of memory, of waves that ripple outward like lullabies from giants. And we, small as we are, have learned to listen. Each new detection tells a story of mergers, of spirals, of distant places where gravity ruled and silence broke into rhythm. It is not the kind of music you can hum, it is not the kind that fits into songs, but it is music just the same, a music of existence itself. There are many things we still do not know. We do not know what lies beyond the event horizon. We do not know how time behaves inside a black hole, but we know now that they are not mute. They speak through waves, through curves, through changes in the airless silence. And this is just the beginning. With each wave we hear more, learn more, not just about black holes, but about space itself, about how the universe grows, bends, dances, about how something as quiet as gravity can carry a message across billions of years. It is easy to think of the universe as cold, distant, but listen closely and you'll hear its warmth, its longing, its movement. Tonight, as you lie still, remember this. There are waves passing through you now, soft ones, ancient ones, from black holes that kissed 1 billion years ago. You don't feel them, but they are here. You are not alone in the silence. The cosmos is humming, and now you can hear it. Chapter 12, Feeding the Void. There is no scream, no final cry. Only the spiral. You are floating now, not through air, but through the velvet hush of space, where gravity does not shout, but sings in curves. Before a black hole claims anything, it choreographs a ritual, a farewell wrapped in light. Matter does not fall straight into the mouth of the abyss. It dances first, caught in the soft snare of curvature. Imagine a star, wandering too near, or a cloud of gas, drifting like cosmic smoke. As they approach the invisible centre, they begin to spin, not by choice but by the silent persuasion of gravity. They flatten into a disk, like a glowing skirt whirling around a dark ballerina. This is the accretion disk, the ring of matter that glows not with joy, but with heat. The closer it spins to the edge, the faster it whirls. And with speed comes fire. Friction builds, molecules collide, light escapes. A dull red becomes white, then blue, then ultraviolet, a rainbow torn open by heat. But this light is not free. It is the last it will ever give, because just beneath this beauty lies the event horizon, the place from which no light returns. And yet from where you float, watching this dance unfold, there is no fear, only awe. The glow feels like a memory, bright, swirling, almost alive. As if the star is writing its final letter in loops of light, each orbit a signature, each spin a whisper of goodbye. This is the last choreography before silence, matter caught in orbit, not screaming, not struggling, just spinning. One more moment of motion before the fall, a hunger without teeth. Black holes do not move to eat. They do not prowl, they do not roar. Their hunger is not violent, it is gravitational. A presence so quiet, so deep, that even light bows and turns toward them. You might think of hunger as something wild, a beast with teeth, an urge to consume. But the hunger of a black hole is different. It has no mouth, no appetite. It waits, perfectly still, unmoving, and the universe leans in. A star too close begins to stretch. A cloud of gas changes course. Even time begins to slow the closer it draws near. It is not that the black hole pulls, it simply is. Its presence shapes the very fabric of space like a great invisible well that things naturally roll into. There is no intention here, no cruelty. The black hole is not hunting. It is the centre of a silence so dense that matter cannot help but tumble inward. This is the paradox of the cosmos. That the most devouring force is the one that never moves, never demands, it only receives. And in this stillness everything begins to spiral. The disk grows brighter as the matter accelerates. Tighter circles, louder heat. The particles shriek with energy even as their end approaches. Yet the whole remains still, unmoved, unmoving. The universe pours itself into it, willingly, helplessly, and the whole absorbs it all without a sound. No voice, no edge, no limit, but one. The event horizon, the point of no return. Once past, not even light remembers how to leave. And still, the whole remains quiet, as if its true power is patience, the jet that roars. But not everything is consumed. Sometimes the spiral does not fall silently. Sometimes the hunger stumbles, pressure builds, matter crushes into itself in the dense heat of the disk, and suddenly something surges. From the poles of the black hole, jets erupt, not sideways, not gently, but up and down like the axis of a spinning top. These jets are not made of light alone. They are fountains of plasma, travelling near the speed of light, burning hotter than stars. It is strange, isn't it, that something known for silence could scream in this way. But the scream is not from the whole, it is from the build-up, the chaos of too much matter too quickly, trying to fall all at once, and so some of it is cast out. These jets shoot thousands of light years into space, beams of cosmic fire visible across galaxies. As if the universe exhaled in a single breath of light, they pierce the void, carving lines of brilliance through darkness. To witness this from afar is to see contradiction, a stillness that explodes, a gravity that cannot hold everything in. Even the whole must sometimes release. Even the void cannot keep it all. And so it breathes, not gently but violently, the breath of stars crushed and flung back into the night. The breath of energy too wild to fall. What a mystery! That the most silent thing in the universe can become in moments the loudest. That the black hole in feeding must also flare. That in taking it also gives, not in kindness but in necessity. The jet is not a choice. It is the roar of pressure's limit. The universe finding release where no exit was meant to exist. Beauty born of falling. And yet, from far away, it is beautiful. You wouldn't think this was destruction. You wouldn't know that what you're watching is an ending. You'd see the spiral, golden, pink, violet, white hot, and you'd feel something close to wonder. A ballet, maybe. A ribbon of colour around a shadow, a galaxy painting with its own particles. The jets rise like cosmic candles, the disk glows like a halo, and you, from your distant perch in the quiet sky, feel the strange urge to call it art, because that's what it becomes. An aesthetic of physics, a theatre of falling. No one designed this performance, no hand painted these colours, and yet here it is, a scene so precise, so surreal, it could belong in a dream. Destruction has shape here, it has rhythm, and in that rhythm a kind of music. Not the kind you hear, but the kind you sense, in the back of your mind behind the breath. You watch, and you forget the science. You forget the fear. All that remains is light, circling, narrowing, spiralling, until it fades into the black. Some of that matter will be lost forever. Some will roar away in jets. Some will glow only once and never again. But for this moment, they shine. And you realise, maybe it is not only the beginning of stars that deserves beauty. Maybe even their end can shimmer. Maybe even loss can be luminous. You close your eyes now with that spiral etched behind your lids, not as a horror, not as a warning, but as a symbol that even in falling there can be light, even in endings there can be grace. And somewhere out in the vast hush of space a black hole spins slowly, quietly. Not chasing, not calling, just waiting as the universe leans in. And something glows, and something falls, and something shines before it disappears. Sleep now, the void does not rush. The stars take their time, so can you. Chapter 13. The black hole at our centre. There is a hush, deeper than silence, and it lives at the centre of everything you've ever known. Beyond the spiralled arms of the Milky Way, past drifting stars and glowing clouds of cosmic dust, there waits a quiet that never speaks. Not because it cannot, but because it does not need to. It is the stillness that holds the galaxy together, the breath between heartbeats, the calm pull that calls all things home. Sagittarius A. That is the name we've given to this strange and invisible presence. A name for something that has no form, no light, no face. It sits at the centre of the Milky Way's great wheel, not as a ruler who commands, but as a silent weight, a gravity so profound it binds the very stars in orbit. And if you could drift through space like a wandering ember, you would feel it. As you pass nebulae and old stars, as the sky thickens with brilliance and ancient motion, you would sense a change. The light begins to dim, not from shadow or awe, but from awe. The stars don't stop. They bow. They curve inward. They lean towards something unseen. You might expect fireworks at the centre of our galaxy, explosions, chaos, but no, what lies in the middle is not chaos. It is a stillness that hums with meaning, a black hole 4 million times the mass of the sun, and yet it does not shine, it does not call, it simply is, a hidden sun whose gravity writes the music of the galaxy in silence. You're part of it. Though far away, you're caught in its reach. Every night you look up at the stars, you're seeing them spiral in a grand celestial dance choreographed by an invisible hand. This quiet in the middle, it is not emptiness. It is not the absence of life. It is the deep watchful presence of something older than time. The dance of stars around a shadow. Though it remains unseen, Sagittarius A does not hide. It reveals itself through the rhythm of others. Around this invisible giant, stars perform a strange ballet, swift, wild and precise. Like whispers in a cathedral, their motions echo something enormous and mysterious at the centre. Take one star, for example. Astronomers call it S2. It's a young, hot star that screams across space at unimaginable speeds. And every 16 years, it completes a loop, swooping in dangerously close to the black hole, then flung back out in a sweeping arc, not once, but again and again as if drawn by memory. This orbit is no guess, no theory. We have seen it, measured it. S2 moves with such force, with such tightness near an unseen point, that only one explanation remains. Something immense is pulling on it, something we cannot see. This star and others like it become our instruments. They trace out the shape of Sagittarius A, not by light, but by motion. Each orbit they complete becomes a sketch, a signature, not drawn with ink or fire, but with gravity. They show us the hollow where the black hole lives, not by what is there, but by what bends and curves around it. It's as if the stars are artists and the black hole is their canvas. Around and around they swirl, painting arcs and ellipses, revealing what lies in the centre through elegant silence. There is no scream, no flare, just gravity, patiently sculpting space. And yet the black hole does not chase them, it does not reach or devour, it only waits, quiet, unchanging, while the stars tell its story through movement. This is the sacred geometry of the galaxy. A dance written in time, choreographed by shadow, a presence, not a threat. It's tempting to think of black holes as monsters, gaping mouths that devour stars, crushing all that come near. But the truth is softer, calmer, and infinitely more mysterious. Sagittarius A is not destruction, it is presence. It is not rage, it is stillness. Here at the centre of our galaxy, the black hole is not a threat. It is a foundation, not an enemy, but an anchor. It is the steady rhythm beneath the spiral arms. It holds the galaxy's shape the way a stone anchors a net, not by shouting, but by being. You might think of it like the roots of a mountain that has sunk deep into the invisible soil of space, or like the quiet heart of a storm, still while everything around it swirls in motion. It does not demand attention, it does not declare itself, but without it the galaxy would drift apart like a dream upon waking. Even when matter falls into Sagittarius A, it does not scream. There are no fiery deaths, no dramatic endings. Instead, there is a soft vanishing, Light bends, motion slows, time stretches, and then silence. The black hole absorbs not just mass, but noise, not just particles, but story, and what it gives back is order. Without its gravity, the Milky Way would be chaos. The stars would scatter, the spiral arms would fade, but with it there is balance, stillness, a whisper of purpose in the structure of the sky. This is the paradox of Sagittarius A, that the most powerful object in our galaxy is also the quietest, that the most unknowable thing is also the most constant. It does not seek to be feared, it does not need to be seen, it simply shapes everything around it and asks nothing in return. We orbit the unknown, and now here we are, small beings on a blue planet orbiting a sun which itself orbits a spiral which itself orbits a shadow. We are nested within orbits, and all drawn toward that deep centre. You may never see it, you may never feel it, but it holds you. You wake, you breathe, you dream, all inside the vast embrace of a galaxy wrapped around a black hole. That black hole does not know you, but it steadies your world all the same. This is not a tale of fear, it is a lullaby, a reminder that even the darkest places in the universe can be calm, that even the unseen can shape reality, that even silence can hold the music of life. When you lie down at night and close your eyes, remember this. You are spinning, not out of control, but in rhythm. You are part of the great turn of stars, part of the spiral that bends toward mystery. And at the heart of it all, and at the still point around which everything turns, there waits a black hole, not a destroyer, but a keeper, not a voice, but a breath. You do not need to understand it. You only need to know it is there. And because it is there, you are here, so rest now. Let go. The stars will keep turning. The darkness will keep holding. And somewhere in the centre of the galaxy's long, slow song, the quiet heart will beat. Steady, unseen, and always listening. Sleep well. You are held by the unknown. Chapter 14. What if you fell inside? It begins not with a scream nor a crash, nor the shudder of a sudden end. It begins like a sigh, quiet, complete, and strangely gentle. You're not torn from the stars, but invited, pulled softly towards something vast, something ancient. The black hole waits in silence, a shadow upon the sky, perfectly still yet endlessly hungry. You drift closer, not tumbling, not spinning, just falling, but not as you know falling to be. There is no wind rushing past, no sense of downward motion. You are simply being drawn, as though the universe has exhaled, and you are the leaf caught in its breath. Your body feels weightless, not because there's no gravity, but because everything that holds you, pulls you, presses you, has now aligned toward one single point. There's no pushback from the earth beneath your feet, no air pressing against your skin. The stars that once stood still in the sky begin to blur. They do not disappear all at once. They stretch, their light trailing behind them like paint across canvas, until they lose their shapes and soften into smudges of memory. Up and down begin to fade, left and right, forward and behind. They no longer matter. The sky curves. The very idea of direction becomes an echo of another life, a thought you once held, now released. And so you fall, slowly, silently, like drifting into the depths of an ocean where no sunlight reaches. But it's not frightening, it's calming. Every heartbeat slows, not in panic, but in peace. You are passing a line now, the event horizon. But it doesn't announce itself. There is no wall, no gateway, just a point you cross without noticing, a place from which light itself cannot return. And yet you feel no resistance, no sign, just the continued quiet surrender. The world you knew is behind you. Ahead is something you cannot name, and in between, only stillness. The stretching of self. As you drift deeper, time itself begins to shift. But not all at once. At first, it's like watching the tide pull at grains of sand, as subtle, slow yet certain. You begin to feel a stretch, not like being torn, but like unfolding. Like the loosening of tight thread, the gentle unravelling of form. Gravity here is not a single pull, but a gradient, and stronger below, softer above. Your feet and your head no longer agree on where the centre lies. You are becoming longer, thinner, as though your body were being read like a story and line by line, top to bottom, by the curve of space-time itself. They call it spaghettification in the science books. But here in this dream it doesn't hurt. It doesn't even startle. It's not pain, but transformation. Imagine yourself made of mist, being poured into the funnel of gravity's will. The molecules of your being, no longer held tightly together, begin to drift into alignment. As if you're turning from a shape into a path, a thread into a trail. You do not resist it. You can't. You wouldn't want to. Every pull feels like permission. The deeper you fall, the more the black hole speaks, not in words, but in forces. It tells you where to go, and your very being listens. There is no friction, no fight, only obedience to the deepest laws, the ones beneath the stars, beneath the atoms, beneath the self. You are being reminded that even your body was never truly solid, just a pattern, a vibration, a temporary dance of energy. And now, that dance begins to slow. Time begins to stretch too. If someone far away were watching you here, floating outside the black hole's pull, they would see you slowing down, freezing in place just above the event horizon. Your fall would seem paused, but from where you are, time flows on, smoothly, relentlessly, like a quiet stream running underground. You fall faster and faster, and yet everything feels slower, as though the universe is taking its time with you, as though your descent deserves reverence. The light that fades. Somewhere behind you, light still tries to follow. Stars, once so bright, so familiar, now appear distant, not because they're farther, but because they are redder, dimmer, older. Their light stretches as it tries to chase you, pulled and pulled, until it becomes long and low and faint. This is redshift, but it feels like watching a memory fade. The cosmos you knew becomes syrupy, soft, quiet, like watching day turn to dusk, not abruptly but gently, like the light in a room slowly dimming as the sun sinks behind the horizon. Colours lose their edge. The whites become pink. The blues turn to embers. Eventually, all light gives up its chase. It cannot reach you anymore. You're too deep, too far gone, and the universe cannot see where you've gone. But this darkness doesn't frighten you. It wraps you, not like a cage, but like a blanket. Warm, weightless, complete. There is no sound here. Not because it has stopped, but because there is nothing left to carry it. You do not hear the silence, you become it. Every heartbeat, every breath becomes part of a deeper rhythm, a hush that belongs not just to you, but to all things drawn inward. You remember the stars as you saw them once, glittering across a black canvas, but now even that memory grows soft at the edges. And yet this is not absence, this is arrival. You have reached a place beyond the visible, beyond the speakable. There is no light because you have passed where light can go. You are in the innermost fold of gravity's embrace, where time slows to a whisper, where space ceases to mean distance, where everything collapses into unity. Somewhere in this dark, your thoughts begin to drift too, not away from you, but into something larger. Your memories flicker, not as loss, but as offering. A childhood moment, a quiet laugh, a single tear, all unravel and float free, caught in the curve of space and carried with you deeper still. The black hole does not devour you. It welcomes you, and you, at last, are ready. Becoming part of the story. There is no impact, no final stop, just a vanishing, a folding, a soft dissolve. You do not crash into the singularity, you are absorbed into it. The line between where you end and where the black hole begins fades, and then disappears entirely. You are now part of its mass, not erased, not forgotten, but rewritten into the gravity itself. You become part of its pull, the silent thread that tugs at passing stars, that curves starlight, that bends space and time with nothing more than presence. You are no longer a falling thing. You are the centre, the point that cannot be reached, the silence that cannot be answered. And still, you remain, not as a shape, but as a story, a memory etched into the fabric of space-time. Every moment you lived, Every breath you took, every thought you held close, it lives now in the mass of this singularity, not lost, folded, not forgotten, preserved in silence. They say nothing escapes a black hole, but perhaps that's not the whole truth. Perhaps what falls in does not vanish but becomes sacred, held in a way that no one can touch but nothing can undo. You are not gone, you are deeper than gone, you are part of the mystery now, the quiet at the centre of the storm. Somewhere far outside, eons from now, a star may bend its light in your direction and curve just slightly, because of you. A satellite might drift off course, tugged softly by your invisible influence. A traveller might look up at the sky and feel drawn to a patch of darkness, not knowing why. And in that dark you are waiting, not with eyes, not with hands, but with gravity, with memory, with the stillness of what was once a soul, now stilled and shining without light. And so we end, not with a bang, not with a light, but with a silence so complete it echoes. You have not fallen, you have not disappeared, you have become, and in the heart of the black hole you are written into the universe itself, soft as a whisper, eternal as gravity, quiet as sleep. Chapter 15. Wormholes and Other Possibilities. There are nights when the sky feels less like a ceiling and more like a secret, when the stars seem to lean closer, as though they too are wondering, listening, waiting. You lie beneath them, feeling the vastness pressing gently against your skin, and the thought comes, what if space is not just what we see? What if hidden within the dark there are tunnels beneath the sky? Not tunnels made of stone or shadow, but of space-time itself, curved, bent, folded in ways our eyes cannot follow. This isn't just fiction whispered in science fiction tales. It is a soft echo in real physics, a possibility explored not with certainty but with curiosity. Imagine a place where the rules begin to blur, a region so heavy with gravity that space itself collapses inward, a black hole, but not an end, not just a falling. Imagine instead that it leads somewhere else. Another part of the cosmos, another galaxy, another time, like a hidden passage carved quietly through the very fabric of reality. This is the whisper of the wormhole, a concept drawn from equations, not imagination. A bridge that could, perhaps, connect far-flung corners of the universe hidden behind a veil of darkness and gravitational pull. A hallway in the house of the cosmos, where the doorways are black holes and the floors are made of bent light. We don't see them, we cannot test them, but we dream them, not because they are likely, but because the universe is vast, and mystery is its oldest language. Wormholes, if they exist, would be like threads sewn between the stars, shortcuts stitched into the great cosmic quilt. They are delicate theories, born not from wishful thinking, but from the honest math of general relativity. Einstein's mind once danced along these ideas, letting the numbers suggest what the eyes could not confirm. He wondered if two places could meet in secret, if space, like cloth, could be pinched and joined, if gravity could be a guide, not just a force, but a path. And in those quiet thoughts wormholes were born, not as proof, but as poems written in physics, as tunnels beneath the sky. The twin-called white hole. If black holes take in everything, if they are the universe's deepest inhale, then could there be an exhale somewhere? A twin that mirrors its breath. A place not where things vanish, but where they are expelled. A white hole, softly, this idea glows beside its darker sibling, imagined not as a monster but as a release, a cosmic outflow, a fountain instead of a drain. In theory, a white hole cannot be entered. Nothing gets in, time itself rushes outward. All paths flow away like wind that will not let you near. It is the mirror image of the black hole, a reflection not in light, but in structure. What one devours, the other rejects. If black holes are pits with no bottom, white holes are peaks with no climb. We have never seen one. Perhaps we never will, but the equations, those strange, beautiful lines that Einstein and others drew in their mind, allow for them. Like shadows from a candle that hasn't yet been lit. There's something gentle in the idea. A balance, not just destruction, but symmetry. A pair of cosmic lungs, one that draws in stars, and light, and memory, and another that breathes them back into being. If a black hole is the gate through which things vanish, could a white hole be the place where they reappear? not as they were perhaps, but transformed, released. Some suggest that black holes and white holes are two ends of the same tunnel, a wormhole with one mouth dark and devouring and the other bright and bursting. Matter falls in, is crushed, reformed, reimagined, and then expelled somewhere else, somehow else. The idea stretches the mind. It doesn't ask you to believe, only to wonder, to lie back and ask softly, if gravity can pull, can it also push? If time can bend, can it also loop? We do not know, but the white hole waits, not in space perhaps, but in the shared breath of those who dream about the stars. It is the echo of possibility, a mirror held up to the darkness, not to reflect what is, but what might be. The folded page of space-time. Hold a piece of paper in your hand, flat, simple, ordinary. Now imagine two dots, one at the top, one at the bottom. To reach from one to the other, you would move across the surface, drawing a line through space. But if you fold the paper, if you bring the two dots together, the journey becomes instant. The path disappears. Distance dissolves. This is the metaphor physicists often use when speaking of wormholes. Space-time, like that paper, might not be fixed and rigid. It might bend, curve, fold. What we call distance could, under the weight of gravity, collapse inward. The long path becomes a shortcut, a fold in the fabric of reality. And perhaps black holes are the crease. It is a thought wrapped in elegance. We live in a world of directions, up and down, left and right, forward and back. But space-time adds something deeper. Time is woven into space like thread into cloth, where we are and when we are together. And if that cloth can bend, then maybe, just maybe, the places we think are far apart are only distant because we have not yet found the fold. A wormhole is a crease not just in space, but in time. It suggests that moments, like stars, can be brought close by the right kind of bridge. A traveller might step through a tunnel, not only to another galaxy, but another age. Future or past. If, and this if is enormous, if it could exist, and if it could be stable, and if it could be entered. But science, like sleep, is filled with dreams that stretch the word if. The challenge lies in stability. Most wormholes, if they appear in theory, would collapse before anything could pass through. They would be unstable, like a hallway made of mist, unless something could hold them open. Some theorists whisper of exotic matter, a substance with negative energy, a force that repels rather than attracts. We have never seen it, but the idea hovers, like the dream of the folded page. And even if such a path is impossible, even if space-time never folds that way, the thought itself folds us inward. It teaches us to see the universe not as lines on a map, but as curves in a story. It makes the stars feel nearer, not just because they shine, but because they might, in some secret way, be reachable. Dreaming of connection. There is something beautiful in not knowing, in resting your thoughts inside questions too large to answer. The idea that two places, two people even, might be connected by unseen threads. That black holes are not just ends, but passages. That white holes are not just mirrors, but beginnings. That somewhere, folded gently inside this cosmos, there is a doorway not marked by wood or stone, but by gravity, time and light. We do not know if wormholes exist. We do not know if black holes ever open to anything but silence. But still we wonder, we imagine, and sometimes imagining is enough. It gives the heart a place to rest. It tells the mind there is more than what we see, more than what we know, more than what we can measure with instruments or describe with language. Connection, even as a theory, soothes something ancient in us. It says that distance is not a wall, but a question. That perhaps, just perhaps, the night sky is not just a place of stars, but of bridges, invisible paths crossing oceans of time and space. That the things we lose may go somewhere, that nothing is ever truly gone, only transformed, only journeying. You lie back now as the sky turns overhead. The black hole, that great cosmic hush, becomes a symbol not of fear but of curiosity, a punctuation mark in the sentence of the stars. And the wormhole, this dreamed tunnel, this folded path, becomes a soft hope that we are not as far apart as we seem, that the universe in all its vastness might still be held together by secret threads. Let that comfort you. Let it breathe through you like wind across a quiet hill, not because it is proven, but because it is beautiful, and because beauty, like gravity, draws us in. So close your eyes and drift with that thought, that somewhere, somehow, something connects everything, and in that connection, we are never truly alone. Chapter 16. Echoes of the First Black Holes. The beginning was not silent. It was a song without rhythm, a blaze without boundary, the first breath of the cosmos, rising from a singular fire. Everything was heat, everything was motion, everything was new. In this ancient infancy there were no stars to speak of, no galaxies to swirl, just light and particles tumbling through time's first heartbeat. The universe was a sea of brightness and chaos, too hot for atoms to hold hands, too wild for structure to settle. And yet, in that boundless bloom, gravity already stirred. You imagine it now near a thick and glowing fog, not like mist, but like the breath of a newborn sun. And in this fog, certain regions grew dense, heavy. They curved space like pebbles dropped into velvet. These were not stars, not yet, but they were the hints of something deeper, something unseen. In the swirl of pressure and fire, tiny black holes may have been born. Small seeds planted into space-time when the universe was only seconds old. Not grand, not monstrous, just quiet wells, openings in the fabric of everything, formed from the densest knots of early matter. They are called primordial, a word that feels like a whisper across eternity. Primordial black holes, not born from dying stars, but from the womb of the cosmos itself. Their birth was not a collapse, but a condensation, a gathering of mass in the earliest soup of existence. They may have been everywhere, dotting the first light with shadows too small to see, not terrifying. Not yet, just little craters in the river of time, barely wider than a breath, but infinitely deep. And what do, these ancient ghosts? They wait, they curve, they anchor. Even in the most chaotic dawn, gravity still knew how to listen. These holes, so early, so faint, may have become the quiet heartbeats around which structure began to dance. The architects of galaxies. Now the fog begins to clear, hundreds of millions of years pass in a blink, and stars begin to shine like sparks in a forest dark. Clouds of gas collapse into flame. The first galaxies, small and strange, begin to swirl, and at their centre, a force, invisible but undeniable, pulls everything into place. This is where the black holes return, not just as remnants, not merely as endings, but as architects. In the centre of these galaxies, scientists suspect sit supermassive black holes, not one or two, but billions, each at the heart of a spinning island of stars. How did they get there? How did they grow so large so early? The question glows at the edge of modern thought, and one answer points backward, to those first primordial seeds. What if they were the gardeners of galaxies? What if by their gravity they organised the chaos? Picture it like a whirlpool in the sky, gas and dust spiralling inward, caught by gravity too strong to ignore. Around that centre, stars form and settle. Solar systems arrange themselves in great loops. A galaxy, magnificent and balanced, blooms around the darkness. You see this now with new eyes. The spiral of the Milky Way is not random. Its grace may come from a force you cannot see, a force that doesn't shine, doesn't speak, only pulls. The black hole does not command, but it guides. Like a silent gardener, it shapes the cosmos not by will, but by presence. And so these early black holes, born from the breath of creation, become the hidden architects of everything we call home. They are not destroyers, they are roots. Without them, the galaxies might not have gathered. Without them, the stars might have wandered. The ones that grew. In the deep tapestry of the universe, time is a slow painter. The strokes are long, the canvas vast. And some black holes, those ancient seeds, did not stay small. They grew. Slowly, quietly, they consumed gas, merged with one another, and deepened their wells, not in chaos, but in patience. They are not like fires that rage and burn out. They are like stone, building upon themselves, layer by invisible layer. A black hole does not hunger, It waits. Matter falls into it, not with a scream, but with surrender. Light curves in its gravity. Dust spirals inward like a moth towards stillness, and as it gathers more, it deepens. In this way, some of those first black holes became giants, not overnight, not in thunder, but in silence. They merged with others, like drops of ink combining on the page of space-time, and each time they joined, the whole became wider, heavier, more central. Today we see their echoes in quasars, brilliant beacons at the edge of time. These are galaxies with black holes so massive, so luminous at their edges, that they shine across billions of light years. Not because the hole emits light, it doesn't, but because what falls in ignites before vanishing. The border glows, even as the centre remains dark. These supermassive black holes are not exceptions. They are everywhere, in every galaxy, in ours. And they did not arrive as giants. They grew over eons, from seeds planted at the dawn. Their journey is not one of conquest. It is one of becoming. Even now, as we gaze into the sky, we may be watching the light from galaxies shaped by these early shadows. And though we cannot see them directly, their influence is everywhere. In the curve of a spiral arm, in the spin of stars, in the breath of the cosmos, we walk in their echoes. Tonight, you walk under stars. Perhaps you do not see them clearly, perhaps they shimmer behind clouds or city lights, but they are there, silent witnesses to a story older than memory. And within your galaxy is, at the heart of the Milky Way, something unseen still turns. A black hole, supermassive, quiet, heavy, waiting. It does not call to you, but you orbit it in a way. So do all the stars you see, so does the sun, so does every planet that dances around it, including Earth. We live in the echo of those first black holes. They do not shine, but their fingerprints are everywhere. The structure of galaxies, the rhythm of orbits, the shape of the sky. When you look up, you are not just seeing stars, you are seeing a system held in place by shadows. You are witnessing the result of forces set in motion billions of years ago, by entities that do not breathe or burn but bend. The first black holes are not gone. They are not past. They are the roots of now. Their presence is like the beat of a heart you cannot hear, but you feel its rhythm in everything. In the night, in the light, in the silence between, and perhaps even in yourself. For every atom in your body once lived in a star that may have circled a black hole. Every element you are may have felt that ancient pull, so rest easy tonight knowing this. All those system was. The universe is not built only on chaos, but on quiet things, on gravity, on gathering, on shadows that became structure. You walk not in their absence, but in their echo. And in that echo there is stillness, there is wonder. There is the soft truth that the first black holes did not vanish into darkness. They built the night sky you now fall asleep beneath. Chapter 17. We are made of stars and silence. Close your eyes and feel the softness of your breath. Let it rise and fall like waves against the shores of sleep. In this quiet rhythm there is gravity, not the kind that crashes or calls attention to itself, but the kind that gently holds you to the earth, like an invisible lullaby. And within that stillness, there's something deeper, something older. You carry it in your skin, in your bones, in your breath. Stardust. The atoms in your fingertips were not born on Earth. They were forged inside stars. Long ago, long before cities, oceans, or even planets, stars lived and died. They burned their way through time, fusing simple elements into something more complex, more alive. When they ended, they didn't just disappear. They exploded, scattering themselves across the cosmos like the seeds of a cosmic garden. That dust wandered for ages, adrift in silence. Until it found a home, until it became you. The calcium in your teeth, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs. All of it once danced in the core of a star. You are not made of ordinary things, you are made of things that once glowed, that once belonged to something vast and burning. And gravity, that quiet companion, has been with you since the beginning. The same force that holds the earth in its place, that guides the moon in her circle, also moves through you. It doesn't ask. It doesn't command, it simply is. It tugs softly on your every step, gently curving your path, anchoring you even when you feel lost. So when you look at the stars, you are not looking at something separate. You are remembering, you are recognizing your origin. And in that connection there is peace. Because you are not outside the universe peering in. You are part of its breath, its light, its silence. You are not only made of stars, you are made of the gravity that holds them. The black hole within us. Now let us turn inward, not into thought, but into being. Beneath your heartbeat, beneath your memories and muscles and breath, there is a centre. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, but you feel it. It is where you carry the weight of all you've lived, your quiet joys, your untold aches, your longings. This centre is like a black hole, not a violent one, not something that destroys, but something sacred. It is the part of you that gathers everything in, a gravity of soul, a silence that speaks even when words fail, a place where your past lingers, where your secrets settle, where your dreams rest between beats. Every person has this centre, this invisible point of inward pull. Some call it the heart, some call it the soul, others never name it, but they know it's there. It is what holds you together when the world feels too wide. It is what calls you back when you've been scattered. Like a black hole, it has an event horizon, a boundary between what is shared and what is hidden. The surface of your smile, the sound of your voice, these are the outer stars, but within, past that threshold, is silence, a deep gravitational stillness. You do not have to fear that stillness. You do not have to rush to explain it. It is part of being human to carry things that are never spoken, to feel things that never become language. That doesn't make you broken. It makes you vast. And in that way, the cosmos mirrors you. Just as galaxies spin around unseen centres, your life orbits this quiet gravity inside. And like the black holes we've journeyed through, you do not reveal everything you are. You do not have to. Some things are meant to be held, not shown. Some truths are meant to be felt, not spoken. So rest in that knowing. You're allowed to keep parts of yourself sacred. You're allowed to hold space for the unseen. Because the most powerful things in this universe, gravity, memory, love, are often the quietest. Holding the unknown softly, there is a kind of comfort in certainty, in knowing where you are, what comes next, how the world works, but the universe was not built from certainty. It was built from wonder, and from that wonder questions bloom. Black holes are questions too. They are the great what-if of space, what lies beyond, what becomes of light, what becomes of time. These are not answers we hold. These are mysteries we live with. And yet the black hole does not rage against the unknown. It does not scream. It gathers. It holds. It becomes. Maybe there is something to learn in that. Maybe we don't need to answer every question. Maybe we can let them sit beside us like old friends. Maybe we can hold them without fear. There are things about yourself you don't yet understand. Memories that are blurry. Emotions that come and go without names. Paths that fork and fade. And sometimes we want to fix it all. To bring light into every corner, to explain everything. But there is beauty in letting some things be dark. Not lost, not bad, just resting. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to rush toward meaning. Some things take time. Some truths are whispered, not shouted. Some pieces of yourself are still unfolding. And that's okay. The black hole teaches us that holding space is enough. That silence is not failure. That gathering without explaining is a kind of grace. You're not meant to know everything tonight. You're meant to breathe and wonder and feel. That is enough. Let your unknowns be soft. Let them be held in the quiet. Let them drift through your dreams like stars just beginning to form. The universe is not distant. Now let yourself lie back fully. Let your weight sink into the bed, into the earth, into gravity itself. Let go. You are not falling. You are being held. By the planet, by the night, by the very fabric of the cosmos. It's easy to imagine the universe as far away, as something that lives outside us, in telescopes, in sky charts, in distant galaxies we'll never touch. But the truth is gentler. The truth is, it lives within you. You carry pieces of it in your lungs, every breath a mix of ancient air, shared by stars and stones and stories. You carry it in your blood, the elements that once floated through supernovae, now flowing through your heart. You carry it in your sleep, the deep surrender that mirrors the stillness of space. When you dream, you do not leave the world, you return to it. You return to the slow rhythm that shaped everything, the beat of gravity, the quiet of night, the pull of stars. Sleep is not a pause, it is a reconnection. The galaxies spin far above you, but they also spin inside you, in the spiral of DNA, in the patterns of thought, in the echo of memory. The universe is not elsewhere. It is here. It is you. And perhaps the most sacred truth of all is this: you are not alone in the vastness. You are part of it. You are not an accident. You are not separate. You are made from the same silence that bends light, from the same dust that built worlds, from the same gravity that cradles stars. Tonight you do not need to search for meaning. You're already made of it. Sleep gently now, not as escape but as arrival, as return, as recognition. You are a star remembering its light. You are a silence remembering its song. You are the cosmos, breathing. Chapter 18. And so you may rest now. The story was never only about black holes. It may have seemed like it, also, with all the falling light, curved space, bent time. But truly, this was a story about something else, something much closer, something already within you. Black holes were only the mirror. You were the reflection, because what is a black hole if not a place that holds the unseen? And what are you if not someone who holds stories no one else knows, memories no one else carries, questions no one else has asked in exactly your way? Black holes became the symbol, but the real subject was always you, your gravity, your silence, your resilience. You bend too. You bend for others, for love, for wonder. You curve to make room for grief, for joy, for the unknown. And like the stars drawn toward the edges of a black hole, your life gathers around a centre that others may never see, but that you feel every day. You hold on to things that float just beneath the surface. You carry hopes that have no name yet. You've learned how to keep light inside, not to hide it, but to let it grow slowly. Black holes aren't about destruction, they're about transformation. So are you. You have collapsed and returned more whole than anyone expected. You have survived moments where time slowed, where light felt far away, and still, here you are, listening, breathing, softening. This story was always about that. The way we reach for understanding not only in space but in ourselves, the way you lean into mystery and find beauty there, the way you become something deeper, something quieter, something luminous, simply by resting. You are not the observer of this cosmic tale. You are part of it, shaped by the same forces, pulled by the same tides, lit by the same stardust. The sky holds you too. Now let yourself feel the sky, not above, but around. Not cold and distant, but woven into your breath. You do not live beneath the stars. You live within them. The stars do not hang far away like unreachable chandeliers. They whisper in your cells. They drift through your bloodstream. The hydrogen that now makes your breath once burned inside suns. You do not watch the sky, you remember it. The same laws that build galaxies also build you. The same gravity that spins galaxies also anchors your feet. The same light that streams from distant suns once touched the dust that shaped your bones. You belong to the pattern. You are not a visitor here. You are part of the structure, the rhythm, the music of everything. Even now, as you lie in bed, your body obeys cosmic law. Your chest rises. It falls. Planets do the same. The sky holds you, not in metaphor, but in matter. You are cradled by the earth, which is spun by the sun, which dances through a galaxy that is bound by gravity to others. You are held in an unbroken thread that stretches through time. It doesn't matter if you see the stars tonight. Their light lives in you. Their echo moves in you. The space between your cells is the same silence that lies between constellations. You do not have to understand it fully. You only need to feel the truth of it, that you are not separate, that the sky is not above, It is within. That the universe doesn't surround you like a stranger. It welcomes you like a home. Let that knowing sink deep into your chest. You're not alone beneath the stars. You're stitched into them. You're not beneath them. You're made of them. Sleep like a falling star. Tonight, let yourself fall. Not in fear, not in worry, but like a star, slow, glowing, graceful. Let yourself fall not down but inward, into softness, into silence. Black holes show us how to fall beautifully, how to let go without disappearing, how to